Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you guys so much for liking and subscribing to my videos. So I figured I would just kind of dive right into Brady's story. So I left off with they were sending us to CHOP, the Children's Hospital in Philadelphia. It was such a long day. It was really a day and a half of tests and all kinds of stuff. I had an echocardiogram, a 3-hour ultrasound, met with a neurologist, met with the orthopedic surgeon, met with 2 genetic counselors. It was an extremely long day. So we went there to try to figure out what was going on with the baby's brain. So when we left from his last appointment that we had here, they had said that they thought that they found CSF in the back of his skull, which we had the Down syndrome test, so we knew it wasn't Down syndrome, so really we were just at a loss as to what it could possibly be. I didn't want to Google anything because we all know that's terrifying, and they would have said, like, I had an hour left to live. So I was not going to go there. So after all of the tests, what they do at the end of everything is they all meet, the whole team of doctors meets, and then they call you or they do like a telecom appointment and you can FaceTime. So I had the whole day. I had to go by myself. Tom was at the hotel with the kids. And they basically said that his brain was fine. There was nothing wrong with it. Then they said that he had a hole in his heart, in the bottom 2 chambers of his heart, and that it should close up by the time he's born. But they're going to have a cardiologist follow up with him. And it has not closed up yet. So he does have a future appointment coming up, and hopefully he won't need to have surgery on it. So the orthopedic surgeon said that he's bilateral club feet, and he'll need surgery on the right foot and the left foot. And what they do is they just kind of release the Achilles tendon so that they can just put his feet out, and then they'll continue to cast him. So I'm feeling pretty relieved at this point. I mean, everything in his brain seemed to be okay. And the hole in his heart, they said, was common, and hopefully it'll close up before he's born. And then his club feet, which, we've dealt with before, not as bad. We've never had to have, none of our kids have had to have surgery before, but we were used to the casts, and it wasn't, compared to everything they had said before, it wasn't that bad. So I go to FaceTime Tom and tell him and fill him in and everything. And as I'm on the phone with him, the neurologist texts the other doctor, because the hospital is so busy that they kind of text each other, and they do the telemeetings right in the hospital from different floors. So she texts the doctor that I'm sitting down with in this meeting room and says, wait a second, I'm just looking at the MRI images for the first time, and there was blood in his brain. So now the doctor that I'm sitting with is completely thrown off, because she thought that they had already had the report back from the neurologist. Now I'm completely upset and confused, because now you brought me into this room to explain everything to me, and you weren't even completely prepared yet, and you didn't have all of the info, and now something is wrong with his brain. And I had to hang up the phone with Tom because I had to link into a certain app to telecom with the neurologist. So poor Tom was completely upset and didn't know what was happening. So after a telecom appointment with the neurologist, it turned out that what they thought was the cerebral spinal fluid in the back of the baby's brain was actually blood. So he had blood clots along the back of his brain. They were in the images, and then they were in the earlier images. The images today well, that day that we did a chop, they were not in there. So they had kind of like resolved itself, but they could come back. And so now they were worried, you know, what damage did they do, if any, when they were there. So our new diagnosis was he had blood clots in his brain. They're not sure why. We're going to have to do other testing for that. I had to do genetic testing to rule out a bunch of things. Tom was going to have to do genetic testing to rule out a bunch of things. So with the three things, the hole in his heart, the club feet, and the blood clots in his brain, it just opened up a whole new level of things that it could potentially be. It could be all three separate issues, but at this point in time, without the baby there, they weren't sure. So they said that we had to wait until he's born and look at his face. They wanted us to look for signs of a stroke, like did the blood clot cause an in utero stroke, or we had to look for any kind of like genetic abnormalities, because at that point in time, really we could rule out a bunch of stuff, but there was nothing else they could do. So it was December 14th, 15th, and 16th that we were in Philadelphia. And my scheduled C-section wasn't until February 5th, which was 2 weeks earlier than my due date even. They scheduled a C-section this time for him because of the pressure in his brain. And I wanted to have a C-section opposed to a regular birth because I was so afraid that anything could happen, and so much had happened and so much was out of my control. I thought, okay, well, a C-section, if anything happens, everyone's right there. There won't be any huge emergencies, and at least it's something that we can control. And then my OB ended up agreeing with me because, you know, with the added pressure in his brain during birth and labor, they didn't want to add that to his little head. You know, with all my other kids, I always thought, what are they going to look like? Are they going to like me? Are they going to look like Tom? Are they going to look like our other kids? With Brady, the entire time, I just kept thinking, you know, I just want to see his face. I just want to know he's okay. I want to see if he had a stroke. I just need to see his face. And I became obsessed with the idea of seeing his little face and making sure he was all right. Or, you know, if he did have a genetic disorder, that's fine. Or if he had had a stroke, I just wanted to know what it was. Every time there was something new, every time there was something different, there was like moments of relief followed by a whole different kind of low. Every appointment, it seemed like it just went that way. And then there were new tests that had to be done. So right now, he has a follow-up appointment with neurology, and he has a follow-up appointment with his cardiologist. I have a telecom appointment with his genetic counselors in Philadelphia, and one with his neurologist in Philadelphia, as well as the neurologist that we see here. And we are going to continue with his cast. So that is him crying in the background. So now is a perfect time I can introduce him to you. So here he is. I picked him up and he fell sound asleep. Thank you guys so much for watching my video. If you could like and subscribe, that would be fantastic. Feel free to share it. Please continue to be a part of my sweet baby Brady story. Thanks, guys.